First, there was Timothy McVeigh, an American military veteran who killed 168 people, including 19 children, in a terrorist attack on a federal building in Oklahoma City. Timothy McVeigh parked a truck outside that building loaded with explosives in an act of homegrown American terrorism. Timothy McVeigh's hatred of the American government was not tamed in any way by his service in the American military. So, too, with America's latest terrorist attack in New Orleans on New Year's Eve, with an American military veteran driving a pickup truck through a crowd to murder 14 people. The American military veteran terrorist was then killed in an exchange of gunfire with police. But when Donald Trump sees the type of terrorist attack that occurred in New Orleans, he doesn't remember Timothy McVeigh, and instead he blames the criminals that he imagines are crossing the southern border. Hours after the attack in New Orleans, Donald Trump wrote, quote, "When I said that the criminals coming in are far worse than the criminals we have in our country, that statement was constantly refuted by Democrats and the fake news media, but it turned out to be true." No one who has ever crossed the southern border in the history of the existence of the southern border has killed more people in this country than Timothy McVeigh, who was born in Lockport, New York, the northwest part of the state, into a white Roman Catholic American family with roots in this country that go back farther than Donald Trump's roots in this country. The New Orleans terrorist, like Timothy McVeigh, reached the rank of sergeant in the United States Army. The simple fact is, this country has suffered more deadly terrorism at the hands of American-born citizens who are veterans of the United States military than people who have crossed into this country at the southern border. It is very clear from the evidence that if you want to worry about terrorism in this country, the United States Army is a much bigger problem than the southern border. No one who crossed the southern border attacked the Capitol on January 6th, 4 years ago. But several veterans of the United States military violently attacked the Capitol on January 6th in an act of terrorism intended to terrorize Congress into violating the Constitution and not certifying Joe Biden as the elected president of the United States. With the country reeling from the attack in New Orleans, and those of us with family and friends in New Orleans worried about their safety, the big players in Donald Trump's world were not talking about New Orleans. They were talking about visas. Former Trump staff member Steve Bannon got in a public argument on Twitter with the owner of Twitter, Elon Musk, that provoked Musk to call Trump supporters like Bannon, quote, unrepentant racists. Musk seemed surprised to discover that there were any racists supporting Donald Trump. Remember the outrage in both the news media and Trump world 8 years ago when candidate for president Hillary Clinton referred to some Trump supporters as, quote, deplorables, the racist, sexist, homophobic, xenophobic, Islamophobic, you name it. Donald Trump pretended to be deeply offended at Hillary Clinton's accurate description of some Trump supporters. When the richest person Donald Trump has ever met, who also happens to be the richest person in the world, calls Trump voters unrepentant racists, Donald Trump, of course, sided with the rich guy against his own supporters. Donald Trump decided to publicly agree with Elon Musk that we should admit more skilled immigrants into this country, even to take jobs that Americans are eager to do. Nobel Prize-winning economist Paul Krugman writes in his Substack article titled, MAGA is already eating its own, pass the popcorn, quote, like many observers, I expected severe buyer's regret fairly early in the second Trump administration. After all, many Americans who voted for Trump did so because they believed he would bring down grocery prices. He was never going to be able to deliver on that promise, and stopped talking about the subject as soon as the election was over. Sooner or later, voters were going to notice. I did not, however, expect a MAGA civil war weeks before Trump had even taken office. Elon Musk threatened Trump supporters like Steve Bannon on Twitter, saying, quote, "Take a big step back and F yourself in the face. I will go to war on this issue, the likes of which you cannot possibly comprehend." Vivek Ramaswamy joined the Musk side of the argument by saying that American workers are just not as good as foreign workers. American workers are mediocre. Ramaswamy said, quote, "American culture has venerated mediocrity over excellence for way too long." Imagine if Hillary Clinton or Joe Biden or Kamala Harris or any Democrat anywhere ever said that American workers are mediocre, American workers are not as good as foreign workers, and that, quote, "American culture has venerated mediocrity." Paul Krugman writes, quote, "So where is Trump coming down on all this? It has always been clear that he shares the tech bros' contempt for ordinary Americans, but is he willing to openly sell out his MAGA base? Why, yes. After Elon Musk told Trump loyalists to F themselves in the face, Trump sided with Musk. The terrorist attack in New Orleans brings into sharp focus what is at stake in the Senate confirmation hearing of Donald Trump's choice for director of the FBI. The confirmation hearing for Kash Patel as director of the FBI will be held in the Senate Judiciary Committee, with our first guest tonight, Senator Sheldon Whitehouse, asking questions of the nominee, who has publicly said he wants to eliminate the intelligence unit in the FBI that investigates terrorist plots and has successfully stopped many of those plots before they were carried out. Here is what Kash Patel said he wants to do with that unit of the FBI and with the rest of the FBI.
The FBI's footprint has gotten so freaking big, and the biggest problem the FBI has come out of its intel shops. I'd break that component out of it. I'd shut down the FBI Hoover building on day one and reopening the next day as a museum of the deep state.